Congressman Jim Jordan says he hopes to soon see the transcripts of Michael Flynn's phone calls with former Russian diplomat Sergei Kislyak, the Russian ambassador to the United States. Those transcripts were declassified by the outgoing Director of National Intelligence, Richard Grenell. It's now up to the new Intel chief, John Ratcliffe, to release those documents. What will happen? Well, let's get the best view on that possible. Congressman Jim Jordan joining us tonight. Congressman Jordan is a ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, also a member of the House Judiciary Committee. Congressman, great to have you with us. Let's start with the House vote tonight on this bill. And this is quite a spectacle. The president not threatening to veto it, but calling on House Republicans not to support it. But he didn't make a position known when you originally voted on the bill. Give us some insight here.
Well, here's what's happened, and I'm going to be with you, Lou. Here's what happened in the last 2 months. So back when this first passed in March, since that time, think about what we've learned. We've learned 39 people unmasked Michael Flynn's name. We learned how they set up Michael Flynn. We've got these transcripts that Mr. Grenell got released that show that when the whole Trump-Russia investigation started, there was no basis for doing the investigation, something you and I thought all along, knew all along, but now it's true. Clapper knew, Brennan knew there was nothing there, Comey knew there was nothing there. So all that has transpired since then, and more importantly, we have the memorandum from Inspector General Horowitz, who is looking broadly at the FISA now. First, he looked at what they did to Carter Page in the Trump campaign. Now he's looking broadly at the FISA, and he put out a memorandum back in March, on March 30th, which said the 29 cases he's looked at, every single one had major problems. 4 of them, Lou, didn't even have what's called the Woods file, which is the file you have where you keep the main evidence, that the supporting evidence documentation for what you then take to the FISA court. So 29 American citizens who were spied on, every single one of those had major problems. So that's all transpired since that first vote. And the president simply saying, look, until we get this all figured out, we ain't reauthorizing anything. We're not doing it. So God bless the president. This is a good product we got working, but it can get better, and that's what the president wants to see happen.
Yeah, I will second your God bless for this president because of what he has endured, all that he's done for the country, and then have to ask the Republicans to stop more of the madness. I also don't quite understand the madness from the Justice Department, and perhaps you can give us some insight into that. Talking about given the cumulative negative effect of the legislative changes on the department's ability, to spy, they want the president to veto it for an entirely different reason.
For a different reason,
What in the hell is going on at the Justice Department, Congressman?
Well, look at what the president tweeted out, though, just a few hours ago. He said there should be no warrantless searches on American citizens, and amen to that as well. So this president understands it.
Amen.
He's lived through it. Mr. Horowitz has given us the evidence and done the investigations that show just how bad it is. So, like the president said, let's get to the bottom of all this before we reauthorize a program that was abused by Jim Comey's FBI and the intelligence community in the Obama administration. Hey, Lou, think about this. 6 people in the Treasury Department were unmasking Michael Flynn's name. In the Treasury Department, 6 different people. Holy cow, what was going on in those last several weeks of the Obama administration? We're now beginning to understand how determined they were to go after this president, how determined they were to cover up their scheme that they had back in their administration. And Jim Comey was the guy who was going to protect them because he was going into the next administration. And then when he gets fired, Bob Mueller's going to protect him. But finally, we are getting the answers, getting to the details, getting to the facts. And that's why we're holding this up until we get a better product for the president to sign.
A better product. I like the idea that you don't sign a damn thing. There's no excuse to be spying on Americans for any reason. And that crap. Former acting DNI Rick Grenell setting former UN Ambassador Samantha Power straight in one of his last acts. Power claiming today Senator Marco Rubio has sounded the alarm about peddling Trump conspiracy theories and how that does Russia's disinformation work somehow. Grenell quickly replied, after spending years peddling a Russian collusion hoax, but under oath admitting you saw nothing, forgive us if we ignore your new so-called warnings. We're joined once again by Congressman Jim Jordan. What do you think of the job Rick Grenell did as DNI?
Amazing. I mean, 3 months, compare 3 months of Rick Grenell with 3 years of Chris Wray. I mean, Rick Grinnell got things done, and he's right about Samantha Powers and her so-called, warning. I mean, for goodness sake, they took a dossier to a secret court, a dossier they knew was false, they knew was unverified, they knew was paid for by the Clinton campaign, they knew was Russian disinformation, and they used that to get a warrant to go spy on President Trump's campaign. And now they're lecturing us? And then Jim Comey goes up to Trump Tower in early January in 17 and tells the president about that dossier that he already knew was false, that he knew was paid for by the Clintons, that he knew was Russian disinformation, talks to the president about it so they can leak it and the press will report the fact that he's talked to the president about it. And they want to lecture us. So you can't make this stuff up, but it's just ridiculous what we hear from some of these Democrats.
Ridiculous, tragic. And how do the Democrats find so many creepy people to aggregate in one place in the swamp? It is just, it's appalling. It's downright scary.
39 of them unmasking Michael Flynn. 39 of them unmasking Michael Flynn's name, too.
Well, they apparently meant to get it done. Rod Rosenstein, first witness before the long-awaited Senator Graham committee, the Judiciary Committee.
Sure.
What do you expect to happen? What do you hope?
Well, no, I think it's great that Lindsey's bringing him in. Remember, Rod Rosenstein was the guy who was there during that critical time in May of 2017. Jim Comey gets fired on May 9th. Bob Mueller gets named special counsel on May 17th. Those 8 days are critical because we deposed Jim Baker, the former chief counsel at the FBI. And Jim Baker told us in that 8-day time frame, the people at the FBI were Rod Rosenstein was looking to wear a wire to record the President of the United States. Rod Rosenstein was looking to invoke the 25th Amendment and remove the President from office. Rod Rosenstein was talking about, and Andy McCabe and these guys were talking about an obstruction of justice investigation into the President. And what they ultimately settled on doing, their course of action, was to get Bob Mueller named as special counsel. And Jim Comey leaked his memos to create the momentum to get Bob Mueller as the special counsel. And 2 years later, and $30 million, and all the subpoenas and everything else they did, they came back with what they already knew. There was nothing there. So, yeah, I think Rod Rosenstein's a good person to bring in right away. And let's find out what he knows about wearing a wire, what he was doing about the 25th Amendment and these other issues that came up in that critical time frame in May of 17.
Do you get the sense that Lindsey Graham this time means to actually find something out? Because he went more than a year after promising to investigate the investigators. Of course, he's immediately ruled out any possible prosecution of President Obama or former Vice President Biden. Strange ways to go, but then it is the Senate Judiciary Committee after all. Your thoughts?
No, I do. And they're going to subpoena a number of people. I think that is real important. I keep coming back to this fact. The insurance policy started off as the investigation itself. Once the president won the election, I think the insurance policy turned into, well, we got to make sure Michael Flynn doesn't stay as national security advisor in the Trump administration because he knows about intelligence. He might find out what we did. So they get rid of Michael Flynn, and Jim Comey's the guy who's going to travel into the next administration and protect him. When he gets fired, it becomes Bob Mueller becomes the special the counsel. That becomes the insurance policy. So there's a lot of people I think we need to talk to. Lindsey's going to subpoena them all, and I think make sure they come in and hopefully get to the bottom of all this.
Congressman John Ratcliffe, you've worked with him, served with him in the Congress.
Good man.
As the DNI, do you think that he will release those transcripts for General Flynn that were declassified by Rick Grinnell?
Yeah, I think he will. I think John Ratcliffe's a good man. I think he's going to do the great work like Rick Grinnell started there. I look forward to working with him. I want that transcript between Mr. Flynn and Mr. Kislyak. I want the original 302. Remember, when Peter Strzok and Pienka go in and try to set up Mike Flynn on Comey's orders, there's the initial 302, the notes taken of that interview, and then it was changed by Peter Strzok. So I want to see the Kislyak-Flynn conversation. I want to see the original 302, and then I want to see the one that was doctored, the one that was amended and written by Peter Strzok. I want to see all three of those documents. We have asked to get access to that as well from Christopher Wray, those 302s. We've also asked to make sure we get a chance to interview Mr. Pienka at some time. So hopefully we'll be able to get all that information.